Have you ever wondered what really happens in the moment we take our last breath? Is it truly the end of everything? Or could it be the beginning of another journey? A place where light, love, and compassion are waiting for us to return. Human beings often fear death, but there are those who, after touching that boundary, came back and said, "The other side is not frightening at all. On the other side, there is light." Today, I want to share with you a true story. It is about a young doctor, a man who was clinically dead for 9 minutes. And in that brief moment, he said he saw his own soul, met the light, and understood the meaning of life. Before we begin, if you believe these stories might help someone find peace again, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue our journey toward light and love, even in the darkest moments of life. It was the year 1943. Amid the smoke and chaos of World War II, a 20-year-old medical student named George G. Ritchie had just been drafted into the United States Army. He was sent to a military hospital in Texas for training. But in the freezing days of winter, George caught a severe case of pneumonia. At that time, the world had not yet discovered antibiotics. Within only a few days, his condition became critical. His lungs barely worked. His breathing grew shallow. His heartbeat faltered. The nurses tried desperately to keep him alive. But then, the heart monitor went flat. His heart stopped. The on-duty doctor confirmed, "Time of death." They noted the hour, signed the death certificate, and gently pulled a white sheet over his face. The hospital room fell silent again, filled only with the faint smell of medicine and the echo of footsteps fading down the cold hallway. No one could have imagined that just a few minutes later, that young man would open his eyes again. But in the very instant his body went still, something extraordinary happened. An experience that defied all medical understanding, a journey that George would later call return from tomorrow. George did not know exactly what had happened. He only remembered that after one final, labored breath, everything around him went completely silent. No sound from the heart monitor, no footsteps, not even the feeling of his own body. Then suddenly, he stood up, so naturally, as if he had just woken from a nap. But when he looked around, his body was still lying motionless on the bed, his pale face covered by a white sheet. A nurse had just stepped out, quietly closing the door behind her. George tried to shout, "Wait! Do not go! I am still alive!" But no one heard him. He tried to touch the objects in the room, but his hands passed right through them, as if through air. He walked toward the door, and it opened on its own without him touching it. Out in the hallway, the cold neon lights cast a faint bluish glow. He saw everything more vividly than ever. Every speck of dust, every breath of air. And strangely, it felt as if everything was glowing with its own light. Then, as though drawn by an invisible force, George felt himself rising, weightless, as if gravity no longer existed. The hospital below him grew smaller and smaller. Before him opened an immense, transparent space. No time, no direction, only stillness, and a sense of peace he had never known before. In that vast space, a massive beam of light appeared. So bright it was impossible to look directly at it, yet it did not blind him or make him afraid. On the contrary, he felt an overwhelming sense of love. So deep, it melted him completely. The light did not speak in words, but George understood everything it wanted to communicate. It knew everything about him, every thought, every fear, every mistake. And even with all that knowledge, it did not judge him. There was only love, pure, boundless love. wrapping around his entire soul like a warm embrace. George later recalled, "I cannot describe that love in any human language. It was unlike any feeling we have ever known. It made me realize none of us are ever truly forgotten." He realized that consciousness does not reside in the brain, because at that moment, his brain had already stopped functioning. And in that very instant, the moment his soul saw his lifeless body lying there, he knew death is not the end. A new journey had just begun. In that boundless radiance, George sensed the presence of a being, not a person, but a source of life. Powerful, gentle, and filled with love. As the light drew closer, he felt small, yet completely safe, like a child being held in its mother's arms. The light made no sound, but within George's mind came a voice. Warm, deep, and full of compassion. "Would you like to see what is truly happening in the world you live in?" Then, in an instant, countless scenes unfolded before his eyes. He saw spirits lingering around the living, clinging to places and desires they could not let go of. Some tried to snatch a glass of wine from someone's hand. Others screamed and struggled in rage and loneliness, but no one could see them. George understood then. This is not a hell created to punish anyone. It is a place where people imprison themselves in what they refuse to release. Then the light carried him farther, to another realm where every soul shone like tiny points of light, glowing in the vastness. There was no fear, no form, only pure love flowing everywhere. Everything was connected through energy. No words, no borders, no judgment. George felt himself dissolve into that radiant energy, understanding everything without needing to think. He said, "Every question within me was answered in a single instant, through love." And then, from the deepest part of his being, the voice of the light spoke again. "Remember this. Every action you take, every word you speak, creates waves that affect the world around you. No act is ever too small, for love, or indifference, spreads just like light and shadow." George had no idea how long he was there, a second or perhaps hundreds of years. In that realm of light, time no longer seemed to exist. There was only one feeling, absolute peace. Then the voice of the light gently said, "Now you must go back. Your journey is not yet complete. Live to tell them this truth. Love never disappears." A burst of light flared, and George felt himself being pulled backward, so fast that everything turned into one endless streak of light. He did not know how he returned. He only remembered that, amid the blinding radiance, he was drawn into a swirling current of energy, and then he heard voices, faint, distant, echoing as if through water. Someone exclaimed, "Wait, I think he's still alive." Then suddenly, the light of the world returned, harsh, cold, and sterile. George opened his eyes. The air was thick with the smell of antiseptic. A nurse stood frozen, her hands trembling, staring at him as if witnessing the impossible. According to the medical records from the Texas Army Hospital, George G. Ritchie's heart had stopped for nearly 9 minutes. The death certificate had already been signed. The white sheet had been placed over his face, and his body was being prepared to be moved to the morgue. Yet, in that moment, he suddenly breathed again. His heart started beating once more. Life returned, leaving everyone around him in absolute shock. After his recovery, George shared everything he had seen. At first, the doctors dismissed it as a hallucination caused by oxygen deprivation. But the strange thing was, his consciousness had remained active while his brain was completely shut down. He described every detail in the hospital room, every person, every action, during the very time when, by all medical standards, he was dead. More than 30 years later, a young psychiatrist named Raymond Moody happened to meet George Ritchie and heard him recount this experience. That meeting inspired Raymond to study hundreds of similar cases, eventually writing the groundbreaking book Life After Life, the work that launched the modern field of near-death experience research. Since then, George Ritchie's story has been recognized as one of the first medically documented near-death experiences in the world. Many neurologists, psychologists, and even military doctors reviewed his records, and to this day, there's been no fully convincing scientific explanation. After that experience, George Ritchie was never the same again. He, once a young, skeptical medical student, now saw the world through completely different eyes. He said that the first thing that changed was that his fear disappeared. He was no longer afraid of death, no longer afraid of loss, because he now understood. Death is not an ending. It is a return. After graduation, George became an army physician, then a psychiatrist. He devoted the rest of his life to healing people, not only with medicine, but with compassion. In every patient he met, he saw a soul learning how to love, within the limits of being human. Years later, when he shared his story in his book Return from Tomorrow, George did not try to prove that he had met God. He simply wanted to remind the world that every action, no matter how small, a glance, a word, has an impact on others. And love is the only thing that remains when we leave this world. He traveled everywhere, speaking humbly, meeting people, and sharing his experience. Those who listened to him often felt a deep peace radiating from his presence. The calm, steady gaze of someone who had seen beyond death and come back only to tell us one simple truth. Love is real. The story of George G. Ritchie is not just a journey beyond death. It is a gentle reminder of the meaning of life, that on the other side, there is no punishment. There is only light, waiting to welcome us home, embracing us with unconditional love. After dying, George said he did not see heaven or hell as two separate places. He saw different realms of the soul, each reflecting the energy a person carries within. Therefore, the way we live today, how we love, forgive, and treat one another, is what shapes the sky we will return to someday. Perhaps the greatest message George brought back from beyond was a simple one. The only thing that remains when we leave this world is love. And if you are hearing these words right now, perhaps that light is touching you too. Gently, yet enough to bring peace to your heart once more. If this story has brought you even a little comfort, please subscribe to the channel and share this light with someone who needs to know that death is not the end. It is the doorway that leads us home to love.